Hey folks, thanks for stopping by. No turning project this week. I'm going to replenish my supply of abrasive sanding paste. Stick around, I'll show you how I do it. I love the shine that you get from Tripoli. It's a great little product. It comes out of Australia. It's rather expensive. And really all it is an abrasive in a wax suspension with some other thickeners, hardeners, flow agents, etc. It's chemistry, but it's not rocket science. So it was fairly easy for folks to kind of work backwards and come up with a recipe that does almost everything that Tripoli does at a lot less cost. So let me get into what you're going to need to put it together. Two main components are mineral oil, also called liquid paraffin, and beeswax. I happen to get both these off Amazon. They're fairly cheap. And then the third item is diatomaceous earth. Now, I get this one from my local Ace Hardware. They've got food grade diatomaceous earth. If you get like the Scott's product and you open up the bag, it'll be kind of brown, and that'll leave the paste brown when you finish. But if you get like the food grade diatomaceous earth, it's very, very white, and the sanding paste comes out nice and clear, which means on some woods, if you use the brown diatomaceous earth, the resulting sanding paste has a tendency to darken the wood a bit. But with this, I've seen very little darkening of the wood when you use a nice white diatomaceous earth. So as far as equipment, what you're going to need, you can't see there. I've got a small crock pot sitting here. Scale to measure it out, something to measure it into, something to stir it. You are going to have to stir this as it cools so that the diatomaceous earth doesn't settle at the bottom, and then a container to put it into. This happens to be from a 500 milliliter container of, I think this was lunch meat or ham, but it makes a great little container that you can seal and stick it in the fridge to keep it cool. The container holds 500 milliliters, but I'll probably only fill it to about 350 milliliters worth of product, just because you also need room to stir it. So I don't want to, fill it up to the top. So you could use like a cooking thermometer or a meat thermometer. You don't want to let the beeswax get too hot. It can scorch, and you need to kind of monitor it as the temperature comes down, so that you can then chuck it in the fridge at the appropriate time once you know it's cool enough that it's not going to continue to settle. So for a little bit of added smell, I will put in a couple tablespoons of orange oil. You can get that on Amazon as well. It's rather inexpensive if you get the larger bottle and then decant it into smaller containers. I keep these around the house. It's a good alternative to what's the product? Goo Gone. But this doesn't have that nasty smell that Goo Gone does. It just smells like oranges. So I'm using a small crock pot, and this is the only thing that this crock pot does. I picked it up at Goodwill for a couple dollars, so it's seen quite a few batches of different test things. So, and I've played with the recipe a couple times and modified it. And one thing you can do is put in some carnauba wax if you want to make it into more of a final finish. This stuff works as it's like liquid sanding sealer. It's both sanding medium and a sanding sealer, because you end up with a finish that fills the pores, but it's not a true finish. So what I like to do is use this and then use friction polish or shellac, or even sprayed lacquer on top of this without issue. So let me go ahead and get everything ready, and we'll measure it out. So for this one, for this container, this is going to be a small batch, so it'll only be a couple of inches in the crock pot, but that's fine. When I'm doing it for other people, I'll do 2 or 3 batches of it and have 2 or 3 containers worth of product. But we'll do this one just for one, because that's all I really need at the moment. So in this case, the ratio is going to be 5 to 1 to 1, and that's 5 parts mineral oil, 1 part beeswax, 1 part diatomaceous earth by weight. Yeah, don't try to do this by volume. Get you a good kitchen scale. In my case, it reads grams because it's easy to do the math, and do everything by weight. So let me go ahead and get the mineral oil. So in this case, I'm making, let's see, 200 grams, 40, 80, so 280 grams worth of weight. It's going to be about 350 milliliters of volume when you put it in the container. So let me get the mineral oil, and I will measure out 200 grams of mineral oil. All right. Let me go wash this container out, and I'll be back and we'll measure out the diatomaceous earth. Okay, that is done. I'm going to measure out 40 grams of diatomaceous earth. This stuff is quote-unquote food grade, but do be careful. You don't want it in your lungs. So I wouldn't go so far as to wear a respirator, but don't stick your nose down in the bag and take a big whiff, all right? Now, you can melt the beeswax and mineral oil separately and let it melt, and then mix in the diatomaceous earth. I've done it both ways. It doesn't seem to hurt anything to just dump it all in and let it all melt together. It may take a little bit longer, I don't know, but I have never sat and watched it to see if it takes longer. Go ahead and get the diatomaceous earth in. All right. Go ahead and mix it a little to get it wet. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. I'm going to turn it on high because I am going to sit here and watch it. Like I said, you want to not let it get too hot, but you do want the beeswax to melt. So let me come back once I've got once it's up to temperature. I'll sit here with the infrared thermometer and measure the temperature in the pot until it gets to about 150. At that point, the beeswax will melt, and we'll go ahead and pour it off into a container. So I'll be back.
Eventually.
All right, I think we are up to about the point we want to be, about 155 degrees. Let me go ahead and turn this off and start to get any diatomaceous earth that might have settled on the bottom. I'm going to pour it into a container. Let me grab a couple of paper towels to grab a hold of the crock pot. And just pour it in. Yes, I made a mess. Alright, so you'd think, oh hey, we're done. No, actually we're not quite done yet. Unfortunately, if we left this to cool by itself, the diatomaceous earth would tend to end up at the bottom. There's already a film of grit down at the bottom, so unfortunately, now you gotta sit here and stir it for 10-15 minutes until the temperature comes down and it starts to set up.
1 hour later.
Okay, the temperature has dropped. It's running about 95, and as you can see, it's kind of the consistency of, I don't know, sour cream pudding. You can see it clumps up a bit, but if you leave it alone, it gets a shine to it, so it's not quite ready to set up. So I'm going to go ahead and stir it a little bit more, and when it gets cool I'll come back.
3 hours later.
Alright, temperatures came down to about 85 degrees, which means it's really it's thickened up enough that the diatomaceous earth is not going to settle out at the bottom. At least it's been my experience. One of the things you want to do at this point is get the air bubbles out, or at least I do at this point, just because it's makes it a bit thicker. So all you really have to do is sit here and tap it against the bench, and you'll see bubbles forming as they come up from the bottom. Yep, I think that's just the right consistency. What I'll do now is just throw it in the refrigerator, and I'll be back when it has a chance to cool off. Okay, so here it is. It's complete. It doesn't firm up quite as much as Tripoli. I assume that there's some kind of a hardening agent in Tripoli that we didn't put in here, but then again, you can put your face to it and smell it, and it doesn't smell terrible. So, okay, so I guess that is kind of it. Thanks for sticking with me. If it's your first time here, please be sure to hit subscribe. Comment. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. I'll probably have another turning project next week. Take care.